Wildcat Kelly looking mighty was seated by the sheriff's side. And when that sheriff said, I'm sending you to jail, Wildcat raised his hand and cried, give me land, lots of land under stars, skies above. Don't fence me in. Let me ride through the wide open country that I love. Don't fence me in. Let me be by myself. Of the cottonwood trees, send me off forever, but I ask you please, don't fence me in, just burn me. These gravel mountain saddles, I will use the mountains on my cayuse, let me wander over yonder till I see the mountains. I will ride on the ridge where the west commences, gaze at the moon till I lose my senses. Can't look at hobbles and I can't stay in fences. Don't fence me. Wildcat Kelly, back home again and now, was seated by his sweetheart's side. And when his sweetheart said, come on, let's settle down, Wildcat raised his head and cried, give me land, lots of land under starry skies above. Don't fence me in. Let me ride through the wide open country that I love. Don't fence me in. Let me be by myself in the evening breeze. Listen to the murmur of the cottonwood trees. Send me off forever, but I ask you please, don't fence me in. Well, howdy, folks. For those of you who don't know, I'm Roy Rogers. Although if you were born here in Cincinnati about 36 years ago or grew up around Portsmouth like I did, you might remember me as Leonard Sly. I was born right down that direction, 412 East 2nd Street. And I'm back here in town. Just last month, July of '47, I was over here at Crosley Field with the Roy Rogers Thrill Circus. And just came back to do a little bit of a show here for folks today. Tell you a little bit about myself, show off a trigger here, and a little bit of shooting exhibition. And of course share a song or two. Now I was born here in Cincinnati, but we didn't stay long. My dad Andy and his blind brother Bill, they built a houseboat and we went up the river to Portsmouth and anchored right off of Chillicothe Street. And we stayed there for about 6 years until my dad decided that we needed to have a place where all the kids, by that time it was my older sisters Mary and Cleta, and then my little sister Kathleen and I, he wanted us to have a little bit more room to roam around. So he bought a little farm at Duck Run, about 12 miles away from Portsmouth, but he kept working in the shoe factory in Portsmouth and he'd just come home every other weekend. So at the age of 7, I was running the farm pretty much by myself. First animals that I had were mules, Tom, Barney, and Frank, that I learned how to plow with, learned how to ride on Barney. And my dad would come home every other weekend, and one weekend he came home with the greatest present imaginable, an ex-sulky racer named Babe. And I really learned how to ride on her. And it got to the point where Mama, Maddie Sly, she let me ride into town on the weekends. Dad wasn't coming home, and I'd visit with him and go to the movies occasionally. Now, as I got older, a really important man in my life was a teacher. Any of y'all have teachers that are really good, really important? Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, mine was Guy Bumgardner. And he came in after we had an awful teacher in the little one-room schoolhouse in Duck Run. And he started athletic teams, and he started the 4-H club for us. And one year, I won the Scioto County Fair with my pig, Martha Washington. She gained more weight in a given amount of time than any other. So I won a trip up to Columbus for the state convention. The very first day that I was there, I spent most of my time riding up and down in an elevator. First one I'd ever seen, the hotel there. But by the time I got to high school, I got 2 years at McDermott High, and we needed extra income. So we left the farm in the care of my older sister Cleta and her husband, and we moved on back into Cincinnati. Dad and I went to work at the U.S. shoe plant. But after just a year or two, I got awfully sick of it. I said, Dad, well, I got 80 bucks saved away, and I know you've got about 100. Why don't we quit the company and go on out to see my sister Mary out in California? And he allowed, but that sounded pretty good. So we drove a Dodge touring car out there. Did pretty well until we hit New Mexico. Then the bearings went out. So we were able to find a junker, and we towed it along behind us for parts the rest of the way out to California. And we worked in driving gravel truck for my brother-in-law for a while until that dried up. My mom, Dad, and I came on back to Ohio, Portsmouth, but I just couldn't take another Ohio winter. So the first chance I got, I drove back out to California, and pretty soon Mom and Dad followed. We ended up picking peaches out in Tulare, California. You know that grapes are at. That feller, John Steinbeck, must have been looking over the Sly family shoulders when he wrote that. He saw all that stuff out there in the labor camps in California. But once Dad got sick and tired of that, living hand to mouth, he said, "Then I'm going to go on into Los Angeles. I hear that there's some jobs in the shoe factory." I said, "Dad, I just can't do it." And so I'd always been musically inclined, and I decided to make a go of being a full-time musician. I joined up with the Rocky Mountaineers and the Poplar Road Cowboys on the International Cowboys. Finally, I worked with a couple of fellers that I'd met along the way, Bob Nolan and Tim Spencer, and we formed the Sons of the Pioneers. So I did real nice tight three-part harmony. Then we had the Farr brothers, Hugh, who played fiddle, and his brother who played guitar, and we started getting radio gigs, and that led to regular full-time work. And then we got a contract with Columbia Studios. And then finally I heard one day about a singing cowboy audition over at Republic. See, I was getting my hat cleaned and reblocked, and I was in the hat shop, and this big old feller, bigger than John Wayne, comes busting in and says, "Quick, I need a cowboy hat." And I've got to get to an audition tomorrow for a new singing cowboy. So as he left, I decided I'd try for that too. So I showed up at Columbia Republic the next day, didn't have an appointment, so I couldn't get past the guard. So I moped around outside for a few hours until some extras on a Western picture went in, and I just kind of pulled my hat down and stuck in with them. And I thought I was caught. I got through the gate, and the big man fell on my shoulder. I turned around, and it was a producer named Sol Siegel that I'd worked with before. And he said, "Lynn, I didn't think about you. We've seen 17 singing cowboys today, but none of them are right. Grab your guitar and come on up to my office." So I auditioned for him, and from there I got a contract with the Republic, and then stood around and did nothing for a few months until Gene Autry walked out on his contract, and they put me in his place in a film that they called Under Western Skies. And from there I started making regular films for Republic, 8 a year. We're making it 8 to 14 days, and I've been doing personal appearance tours to help support me and my family since then. Republic only started out paying me $75 a week. It cost me more to answer all my fan mail than I was getting paid.